comments and consolidate the changes we make into one outside effort, which we would need, and it's done. It saves money. Do we have agreement that that would make some sense, which would mean that on the 13th, we would not necessarily do a study session on changes to the comp plan? Then we would wait until later, till we get the state council to send it in. Works
Yeah.
for me. Okay.
Sure.
Councilmember Simon?
Sounds like a solid plan to me.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we'll do that. All right. I think we're through this one, and there's 6.6.
6.6.
I'll leave it to you. To Councilmember comment from your motive to
When we got out together, there may have been beverages, and we were discussing contract compliance and the city council's obligations under the current contract and the city administrator. I have a copy of the contract. City attorney in a separate email said, yes, it's fine to reproduce this fragment of contract publicly. It's worth taking a moment to actually read that blue box area because it names the city council. So there's a contractual obligation here. And the conversation that Councilmember Muramoto and I had was, hey, reading this and thinking about fiduciary responsibility and contract compliance, there are two options. Either there's sorry, I should say one thing. We looked at each other and we said, wow, what you and I think doesn't really matter. What matters is what council consensus is. So we should take this to the council. So we're coming to the council, the full council of all five, to say, hey, as you read this blue boxed area that names the city council, and you think about complying with the contract, we think there are two options. Either a council member will read this and think, yep, council has fulfilled its obligations with respect to the contract. There's nothing else to do. Or council members will read this and go, ooh, actually, if I think about compliance, I think there might be more than that we need to do as council members, not individually, but there's some council activity involved here. I'm going to pause there. Kim, I did my best to represent that. I'm not sure if you've got more. Okay. And I'm happy to have discussion. I don't know if we need a formal vote or what people's feelings are. I'm opening it up. That's all the context that I can.
Okay. This is your discussion, so.
Okay, so reading the blue box, I agree that we have a compliance issue.
Two.
All right, I'm reading the blue box since I'm trying to understand what it is. Okay. Councilmember Sinma?
Yeah, I'm digesting and trying to go down memory lane, and I apologize. I don't have total recall on every meeting, and I don't know. Sorry, that's the best I can do right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, this has nothing to do with dean or performance reviews. It's just more about council compliance, and that was my concern. So I think we have a compliance issue, and I think we need to figure out how to put in a process in place so that we are compliant, or remove the text so we aren't compliant.
Councilmember Wilson?
So mayor is the CEO of the city, and, we did, I thought you did a good job already of kind of pushing this forward, kind of giving your assessment. And so I guess I read this and I'm okay with compliance because, we're following your lead, and it's your lead to take.
Well, I don't think this changes that, really. It's still the mayor's responsibility. It looks like it's under B, if there is something in terms of defining the performance objectives for the city to, related to the council's policy objectives. Is that where the compliance issue is?
Yes, and I like this because it gives the council an opportunity to communicate our expectations to the city administrators so that we understand.
Okay,
Yeah.
So try to be just.
okay,
Sorry, go ahead.
again, so yeah, if you're consulting with council, so, I understand what you're talking.
So very narrowly, I'm sorry, Steve.
No, go ahead.
So again, Councilmember Ramona and I were like, okay, we want to be very narrow and take baby steps. We don't want to do any overreach. We've gone through 5 council members. I agree with Councilmember Ramoto. This is why we brought it to the full council. We appear to have 3 council members who believe that further action on the part of the council is necessary. 1 who does not, and 1 who is abstaining. So we have a majority of council that believes we have a compliance issue, which indicates that we're done with this conversation. We feel concerned about that, and then done. The next bit would be, so what do we want to do? Which is a conversation we can try to have now, or conversation we can have offline from this.
My recommendation is we have that offline.
Thank
This
you.
is not something that can't be resolved.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And that we resolve it in.
Thank you.
I have some thoughts.
Okay.
His hands raised.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Sinwell, I didn't see that. You're up. You're on right now.
Okay, yeah, I rebooted my 286 chip and I went through my note and I agree that on item B, I see that now, and I came to that conclusion before the discussion. I think they're and I think to the point, it is easily curable. And obviously we could do that. Folks who are in charge can do that offline, but I do recognize B as maybe as a missed item.
Okay.
We can talk about this.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
End of 6.
This is not intentional, I can tell.
Yep.
So, okay, thanks. All right, then we'll move on. No public hearings, and we can go into the mayor and council reports. My report was in there, and we did not have a points mayor meeting last month. It was canceled right before the 4th. So there's nothing to report from them. We continue to work with Washington. We have a meeting tomorrow on continued mediation. Nothing to report here at this point.
I'm not sure if you.
Go ahead.
So there are these signs up for Medina Days that were basically sign up. Like, are you a patron? Like there's a Medina Days takes a very different approach around what the city does versus what a bunch of community volunteers do. For 4th of July, Hunts Point and Yarrow Point have a similar approach of there are like the city is very light touch. There are residents, self-organizing committee, there are contributions from the community, et cetera. Clyde Hill seems to, Clyde Hill's approach is different where it's a city thing. I don't know if that's hyper deliberate or just historical, or if it's worth making the effort, the same way that we have a BAC and we have these other commissions, to see if there are residents who want to take this on the way that the other 3 Points communities have residents who run with it. It's not that, and for what it's worth, I'm not saying this would be like this tremendous budget savings and this would cure that problem. But it's just, it just struck me on reading this because I saw, because I asked the Medina, hey, are you a patron? Have you signed up? So I'm raising that. I don't know the council.
Great idea.
I believe that it used to be a more community sponsored event once upon a time with car show and fun runs and a whole bunch of things. And the people that spearheaded that on the resident level moved out of town or lost interest or something. I'm sorry.
Got too old to run.
I'm not sure how fun it is to run around the hills.
It's, sometimes those things are hard to have momentum. I mean, Alta Vista has an annual picnic. And it's, the people who have organized it over the years don't want to do it anymore. They've been doing it. So now you got to find volunteers to do that. But that's, there's no reason why we shouldn't at some point try to talk to the community and see what they want to do.
Did he just volunteer to spearhead that community effort?
He's gonna give it to the planning commission. I'm sorry, that's not intentional. So, I think that, you know, it's obviously we're not gonna fix it by this point, but maybe we ought to think about it. Community involvement in some of those types of things. By the way, there's one other item I want to mention, since it's in there, I'll make it. We will be advertising for a civil service commissioner who, in that opening we recently created due to a resignation. So that'll be public and there's no rush to get the person, but we'll run through the process. So. I don't know if there's any, you've got your NISWAC.
Yeah,
comments
NISWAC,
in there.
basically, the biggest discussion going on now is converting Houghton to what to do with Houghton. It's a dump and, you know, dump and leave, and it's creating some problems.
It is, they've been talking about the move forever.
I know. Well, the biggest thing was how to, you know, having just taken 2 mattresses to recycle for $60. Like, how much? What's the dump time? It's like, well, $25 a pound. It's like, well, these don't weigh a ton, but okay. But anyway, that's the biggest thing. There's a lot of mattresses and things that go in. It should be. So that was the main discussion. And then where rate, same, but I want to have you guys thinking about something, and that is our interlocal for wire 8 is coming due, not till 2025, but is this something we should continue to do, considering our robust salmon runs are obviously in jeopardy because we don't have any. But it's something we want to continue.
Did they exist when you were a kid? Were they robust when?
No.
Okay.
No, they were the same as they are now.
So I'm asking the newbie question here. Why are we like, is it because we have water that runs through us and you're like, I never understood our relationship.
I think a lot of it was Bruce Knott's because he's kind of, I mean, he basically asked me to continue doing this, and it's fine. I mean, in the overall scheme of things, salmon is important, but there's really not a lot of impact that we can have here. So
yeah,
it's just a question. Think about it.
I think it's you're the one involved. If you think it's valuable to the community, then you're involved. And if you don't, I would listen to your recommendation for them to continue.
I don't know. I'm also not sure how much they will cost. I didn't, I just forwarded names. Think about that. We can talk about it.
Any other items?
So we still have me on East Side Transportation Partners, and I'm not sure there's a whole lot of value in me participating in East Side Transportation Partners. The mayor of Medina participates representing the Points communities. It's been a lot of focus on sound transit, and sound transit is as important as the salmon run to us.
Well, if it's any, I do have an interest just in global, regional, you know, transit. I mean, I would be willing to move to ETP and drop the wire rate. But
You can take ETV back.
Okay, well, that's here.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Just
Yeah.
go through that. As far as I'm concerned, if there's not value to the community, then I understand it's not worth your time. I'd rather save your time for when there's something to do that helps. So,
MISWAC isn't,
yeah, yeah.
MISWAC.
I like it. So anything else? Okay, let's move on to the administrative reports. You want to take that from here?
Yeah, just super quick. So I did just want to point out that was talking about our audit for the 2 years, 21 and 22. And there was a considerable amount of federal money involved in that that was included in the audit. And many cities had gotten findings and been dinged by the auditors for how they used their federal monies. So I did want to just point out, we got a clean audit. And some kudos and seriously, the federal part of that, we don't usually take federal money because of the increased amount of scrutiny that happens on it. So well done. And then we're also all very excited to have Chris Dill joining us as our deputy clerk permit tech a week from today. And just found out yesterday, I don't know, whatever it was, that apparently Bellevue Utilities has they brought this up like a year or two ago, and there's been radio silence to my knowledge, but it's a reservoir improvement project. And they dropped off some flyers about it yesterday. And so there's maybe some more work going on over at the over at the park to restore one of the water towers. So that was new news. And computer replacement. They can reach out and touch them. That's all I got.
I'll be here tomorrow.
Yes, and they will be here tomorrow.
Public Works, you have the building report, all that's permits issued. Public Works report is in there. I'll let you read that. Sean will be here the next council meeting. He has some specific items that we need to approve and review, and we can go over things at that point. So I suggest we go to the financial report. He said, thank you, by the way, for your efforts on the audit. I know you worked really hard on it. So
But it's an undertaking, for sure. Okay, so quarterly review, we're halfway through the year. So this is the financial report that goes through June 30th, even though now it's actually July 30th. So bear with us a little bit, but so we have to go through our review of our second quarter for 2024, and we do a quarterly budget monitoring plan, and we use that, what we call a red flag system, which identifies revenues that are out of compliance by 15% below budget targets, or expenditures that are 15% over budget targets for this time of the year. Quick highlights, total operating revenues are coming in about $20,000 ahead of budget, so pretty much on target. Investment revenues continue to be the star of the show. They're about 32.1% ahead of our second quarter budget estimates. Interest rates remain kind of stagnant and high. So our LGIP recorded a net earning rate of 5.4%, or about 22.8 thousand on our $5.1 million portfolio. Sales tax revenue remained steady and also ahead of projections by about 1.4%. Interestingly, 50% of our total sales taxes come from construction type activities this year, and about 30% has come from retail and landscaping. So actually construction's a bit higher than the same time last year. So showing that construction costs are up a little bit. And 14, that basically the top 14 construction companies are what make up that 50% of our sales tax. Our development revenue is also ahead of budget year-to-date expectations by about 4.1%, which is also consistent with continued development. Total revenue through June is $483,000, which is about $134,000 more than this time last year. So a significant increase. We have issued 4 new single-family residential permits through the end of June. I think 2 years ago there were 3, or last year there were 5. So we're kind of right in the middle. Our policy requires that we add items that are falling behind budget expectations by 5% or more. That's what we call our watch list. Utility taxes are coming in about 9.2% below budget expectations to date, but this was primarily due to a delay from Bellevue for the water and sewer utilities because they are short-staffed. And so they are behind about a quarter as they've been trying to fill positions in their finance department. They are aware of the issue. They do acknowledge that they're working on it. They did in fact make 1 payment in July already. So hopefully we'll get our second payment that would normally be received in July anytime now. So not something to worry about. It will be reconciled. It's just a delay. And then 2 operating revenues are identified as being on that red flag list, which is the greater than 15% behind budget. The first is our, what we call our other operating revenues. So miscellaneous revenues that makes up about 6.7% of our total operating budget. And it's things like sale of surplus assets, public records requests, and the flood control district, which is the big ticket item, which is the sole source of funding for our stormwater comp plan. And we have just submitted the first request for reimbursement from them just last week. So we should be getting a fairly substantial deposit from flood control district here anytime now. The second item is our FSA deposits, which are employee buried and not something we have any control over. The last item I just want to note, even though it's not an operating revenue, is restricted REIT money. And that's simply because it's about $195,000 behind budget expectations. As we know, home sales have slowed down. We did, however, report 4 houses sold in June. So we will be getting a pretty good repayment, which should help us catch up for the next month. So now we've had 2 months in a row of good home sales. So spring was slow, but summer seems to be off to a pretty good start. Hopefully we can make up some of that difference, but again, as interest rates remain high, sales remain a little bit slower than they were the last couple of years. No surprises. All right. On the expenditure side, citywide expenditures exceeding greater than 10% above budget. There's one item, which is general governmental expenses. This is things like IT costs, citywide dues and memberships, professional services, training and travel, that sort of thing. It's only 11% over, so just barely. And basically it has to do with the state audit. Our state audit, when we originally did our budget, we didn't know what the price was going to be for a double year budget. We didn't know when they were going to do it. And so we had a placeholder of about $20,000 in there. And it ended up that their estimate was about $35,000. And that is in fact coming in about where they're at. So that makes up the largest portion of that. On the last part on the expenditure red flag list, there is really only 2 things. Both of them are kind of court related. Prosecutors and filing fees are exceeding budget expectations by about 17.2% or about $7,000. This is fees that we pay to Kirkland Municipal Court. The other one is police expenses, the main culprit being public defender services. And so we're over our other police expenses by about 37% or $20,000. And that there's also been a much higher than typical uniform spending in the first half of the year. So likely that will level out as the rest of the year moves forward. But we shall continue to see our public defense services. The new contract is significantly more expensive. And so not anything we have a lot of control over, unfortunately, but we do need to provide that service. So those are the only things that I have to report on that. And then our regular June financial statements, pretty unremarkable. A typical month, we had uses exceeding sources by about $240,000. Total cash and investments are about $12.4 million. And that's it. I don't have anything else today. Any questions or any concerns about the first half of the year?
So your comment, just for what it's worth, your comment around the things we can control and the things we can't control is a really helpful lens for the BAC.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. We went through the police report, fire report will be in there, public records reports are in there, and if there's any questions. That didn't do it. So, future agenda topics, we actually have another council meeting in 2 weeks, right? So I suspect there will be some things to go through, dare I say. This might be a little more limited agenda. Knock on wood. So
And I will be remote for that one.
both of you will be remote, correct? So there we get this out. Tom, you had something to say?
Keying off of what Dean just said, I just wanted to remind you all that I will be on vacation and unavailable from the 12th of August to the 12th of September. So I'll miss the August and the September meetings. My apologies. Sharon Cates from our firm, Lighthouse Law Group, will be standing in for me, and she's a very accomplished and capable attorney, and She'll be available to answer your questions and help you as needed. So thank you.
I agree. She's very capable and has stood in for you in the past. So that's great. And good vacation.
Thank you.
So is there anything we should talk about on the next meeting or, oh, go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to say, we are hoping to bring a contract for on-call planning services. However, our interviews are this Friday, and then I'll be working feverishly to try and put a contract together, so that might be a late ad, and hopefully we can make it into the
Okay.
packet.
Great. Good to know. All right, I don't think we have anything else for the good of the order here. So on that basis, since everybody else around here is left, we are adjourned. Thank you, Councilmember Simba. Thank you, Tom.